Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to my Underground Railroad project. The goal of this project is to help all of us find ways to personal and collective freedom of all sorts. Economic freedom is a big part of the conversation because we live in a capitalist society. But at the same time, economic freedom must be accompanied by other forms of freedom, primarily social freedom, psychological freedom, and spiritual freedom. Because you don't want to just get a bunch of money so you can become a high paid slave instead of a low paid slave. Now, I'm going to give you some five, what I consider to be five fundamental tips, five things you must know about economic freedom and what it means to be free in terms of money. The first thing you want to do in this society is you want to own something. One of the reasons that black people are behind is because we don't own the land on which we stand. We have the highest unemployment rates largely because we don't own the businesses that are giving out the jobs. So if somebody's going to give out a job and they got a choice between hiring a relative or a friend or another white person or your black butt, who do you think is going to get the job? Let's just be real. I mean, this is the country that we live in. We know the history. I don't have to explain to you how racism works. So at the end of the day, I found personally that my freedom grew quite a bit when I learned how to own my own stuff. When I learned how to be my own boss, when I learned how to control my own situation, I became a lot less frustrated. Because even with the PhD that I have and all the years I spent going to school, it was very difficult for me personally and professionally. Because an angry black man doesn't fit in too many organizations. The second step, or the second key, I think, to economic freedom that you want to keep in mind is don't allow yourself to become a slave to money. You see, capitalism and money is, some people think money's evil. It's the root of all evil. You've heard that. Some people think capitalism is bad. I know capitalism very well. I know capitalism better than a man knows his ex-wife. I've been studying capitalism for years, and I don't see capitalism as bad or good. I see capitalism as powerful, like fire. If you ask people if fire is good or bad, well, it depends. I mean, if they got burned alive, they might think fire is bad. But if they use fire to cook their food and keep themselves warm, then they might think fire is good. A drug can either heal you and make you better, or it can burn you, or it can turn you into an addict. So ultimately, when you think about capitalism, you think about making money. Money can either liberate you or it can enslave you. If you worship money, you are going to be enslaved by money. That's one of the reasons why I have big issues with rappers who will make songs where all they talk about is money. Money moves everything, or cream moves everything around me. I'm sure you heard that song, right? And you got Jay-Z, right? Guys like that who just worship money, and money's the most important thing in the world. And what that does, fortunately, is that creates what I would call a financial gluttony, where your world, your whole universe has been shrank to the size of your bank account. You literally use the size of your bank account as your excuse for any sort of vile, irresponsible, unconscionable behavior imaginable because you somehow think that making money excuses everything that you do in your life, and it does not. Money can excuse cowardice when the situation calls for us to stand up because we're afraid of losing money. A lot of us will sit right back down. Well, what's the point in stacking your financial chips if you're still going to be a coward? What's the point in having all that money if you're afraid to live your best life? What's the big deal about you being wealthy and successful if nobody benefits but you? Or what? Think about that. I mean, there are people out here who really think that they are successful people, and the fact is that they're going to live and they're going to die, and nobody will know or will care that they were ever here. I think money should be used as a tool for your empowerment, a tool for upliftment, not as something that gives you an excuse to become an even bigger slave than you might already be. Here's the third thing you want to keep in mind when it comes to financial empowerment. You want to avoid becoming a spender, a borrower, and a consumer, and instead you want to be a saver, investor, and producer. Too many of us have been brainwashed into spending every penny we get, and you hear it in the music. You hear rappers talking about going to the club and throwing money in the air. What kind of dumbass, excuse my French, what kind of idiot throws money in the air? I mean, that's stupid. You hear about people going to the store and buying Air Jordans that cost $250 when they can barely afford to pay the rent. You hear about people pretty much basing their whole self-worth on the name brand on the clothes that they're wearing when they've never thought for a second about what it would take to actually create that same clothing line and produce those clothes for other people to buy. Well, those people are spenders, borrowers, and consumers. Consume a life of consumption is not sustainable. Basically, you're eventually going to run out of money, or you're going to spend your whole life never getting ahead, like a hamster on a wheel. A borrower is something that is a person that's always enslaved to the person that they owe money to. Our whole nation, this is part of our national culture. If you look at the federal government, you see that they pretty much continue to raise the debt ceiling every year just to maintain their economy because they're so committed to borrowing from other people. Well, that's going to lead to the demise of our country. So ultimately, what you want to be is you want to be a saver. That means you get your money, you save at least 20% of that money. You want to be an investor. That means that it's okay to spend money, but spend money on things that are going to make you more money. You know, I used to love to spend. I was a spendaholic. I'm not going to lie about that. But I found that when I spent money by investing in my business, at least I had something that was going to pay off for me in the long run, as opposed to just spending it on a pair of Gucci jeans or whatever it is that people want to buy. The third thing you want to do is you want to produce something. Find something to produce. Every African American in this country should know the basics of entrepreneurship. Everybody, even if you work for somebody else, everybody should have a side hustle. And we'll talk more about that in a later video. The fourth key to developing um, your financial empowerment, your economic freedom, is to make sure that you're always investing in education and marketable skills. There are a lot of people that have come to try to work for me who were not really able to deliver anything that made them worth a paycheck. I didn't understand that. I was thinking, well, I remember someone came to work for me, and I remember thinking, okay, your writing skills not very good. You didn't finish school. You don't have a product to sell. You don't have anything of value that you're bringing to the table, but yet you're asking me for a lot of money. Well, I want to give you money, but I'm not going to give my money away, so I don't know what I can even pay you to do. And so, unfortunately, when we have this anti intellectualism in our community, which has affected so many of our kids, not all of them, but a lot of them, it's sad because they go into a workforce unable to really compete. And so, ultimately, I'm a believer that all of us should be investing in something that we can learn how to do, something we can learn how to build, something we can learn how to offer that will allow us to add money to our bottom line. The last piece that I think is very important to developing your financial empowerment is to remember that it's easier to avoid becoming addicted to the drug if you never try the drug in the first place. And what I mean by that is a lot of people become addicted to a lifestyle. They feel that maybe because and actually this is a really funny one because studies show that the people who are most susceptible to this problem are not the people who are poor and uneducated. It's people who have a little money and have some education, the doctors and the lawyers and the PhDs who are most vulnerable to this because we get this education, we start making a certain amount of money. Let's say we're making six figures, and you suddenly feel like you're supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to live in a certain neighborhood. You're supposed to drive a certain car. You're supposed to live a certain lifestyle, and you push yourself to live that lifestyle because you see all the other attorneys living the same way. They're all shopping at Bloomingdale's, so you shop at Bloomingdale's. They're all driving $50,000 cars, so you get a $50,000 car. And what's really sad about this is that most people are maintaining this and sustaining this lifestyle by living paycheck to paycheck and going deep in debt. Now, let me tell you why this affects you. This doesn't just affect you financially. I mean, that's enough stress as it is. Where it also affects you is that every time you become more enslaved to money, the more you become detached from the life that you would like to live. If you're going to work every day and you know you need that job, you know you need that paycheck, you know you've got a couple of car notes and a mortgage you can't afford and all these other things you have to pay every month, then effectively you are slowly signing yourself up for what I would consider to be a form of slavery. You get to a point where you can't quit your job. If someone sexually harasses you, you can't speak up. If there's racism on the job, you can't say a word. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to give speeches at big corporations and had the black people pull me to the side and say, Dr. Boyce, we got to tell you how these people are treating me around here. And really, I'm thinking, well, maybe you should just quit. But I know that that's a stupid thing to say because they can't quit. They don't have anywhere to go. They need that money. They're addicted to their lifestyle, or they need that paycheck, or they don't feel like they have any other options. So my argument is that if you want to have other options, then create other options for yourself and don't lock yourself in. And not getting addicted to a lifestyle is a great way to go. In fact, once my brother told me a story about a billionaire that he met, and he went to meet this billionaire in New York City. And you would think that this guy, who has more money than any rapper or any entertainer that we've ever heard of, you would think that this guy would have the nicest car, the fanciest suit, and the biggest office. That was not true. This guy had a tiny office that was the same size as the rest of his employees. He was wearing regular clothes, the kind of stuff you can get at Walmart, and I think he drove a Prius or one of those hoity-toity cars people drive to save the environment or something. But it wasn't a Bentley. He wasn't trying to ball out of control. He wasn't trying to live his life with all these status symbols and prove to you how much money he's got. He was into his craft. He was into building his wealth and being free. And that's what I think we have to embrace as a people. We can't get into this blinging and balling and trying to look a certain way and carry a certain lifestyle, because it only leads us to further demise. And I hope that you agree with me on this. And I think that's a very important part of our financial freedom. So that's the last tip I'm going to throw at you today. Thank you for joining us in this Underground Railroad project at Your Black World. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Peace.